The gavel in my hand felt heavier than usual as I looked down at Linda, Queen of the cul-de-sac Martinez, who was currently experiencing what I can only describe as a full system meltdown in my courtroom. "Mrs. Martinez," I said, my voice carrying the weight of 20 years on the bench, "you're telling this court that you called the police on my daughter for visiting me." Linda's face had gone through more color changes than a mood ring in a thunderstorm. Her perfectly manicured hands shook as she gripped the defendant's table like it might save her from drowning. "Your Honor," her lawyer stammered, "my client had no way of knowing that I'm a sitting family court judge." I interrupted, savoring each word like vintage wine. "Or that harassing a college student for visiting her father might be problematic." The packed courtroom was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Or, in this case, the sound of Linda's world crashing down around her ears. "Let me tell you how this delightful little saga began," I continued, leaning back in my chair. "It all started when my daughter Emma had the unmitigated audacity to come home for spring break. Emma's Honda Civic pulled into my driveway at 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, and I swear I could feel the neighborhood's collective blood pressure spike. From inside my home office, my daughter climbed out, stretched like a cat in sunlight, and grabbed her overnight bag. That's when Linda Martinez materialized. I'm not exaggerating when I say materialized. 1 second the driveway was empty. The next second Linda stood there, like some suburban gatekeeper, clipboard in hand, wearing her HOA badge like a sheriff's star. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "Are you a resident of this community?" Emma, bless her heart, looked confused. "I'm visiting my dad. He lives right here." She pointed at my house with the kind of innocent bewilderment that only a 20-year-old can muster. Linda's eyes narrowed. "Visiting requires prior approval from the HOA board. Section 7.3.2 clearly states." "Mum," Emma interrupted politely, "I'm just visiting my father for a few days. The rules are the rules, young lady." Linda's voice carried the authority of someone who'd never been told no by anyone more important than a grocery store clerk. "You'll need to fill out a visitor registration form and wait for board approval." I watched this exchange from my window, coffee cup frozen halfway to my lips. In 20 years of presiding over family disputes, I'd never seen audacity quite this pure. Linda's harassment campaign began with surgical precision. First came the violation notice slipped under my door at 6 a.m. Unauthorized overnight guest in violation of community bylaws. Then the parking citation on Emma's car. Visitor parking without proper permits. By Thursday, Linda had escalated to photographing Emma every time she stepped outside. Like some deranged suburban paparazzi, she'd emerge from behind hedges with her phone, snapping pictures of my daughter walking to the mailbox. "Dad, this is getting weird," Emma said, watching Linda crouch behind Mrs. Peterson's rose bushes with all the stealth of a rhinoceros in a tutu. "Don't worry about it, sweetheart," I replied, though internally I was cataloging every single one of Linda's actions. Some people just need to feel important. What I didn't tell Emma was that Linda Martinez had just made the biggest mistake of her petty little life. You see, harassing someone's child has a way of bringing out the protective instincts in even the most patient father, and I hadn't spent 2 decades on the family court bench by being particularly patient. While Linda was playing neighborhood dictator, I was doing what judges do best: research. A few phone calls to the county clerk's office revealed some fascinating information about our HOA's self-appointed enforcer. Linda Martinez, it turned out, had quite the history. 3 previous restraining orders from different neighbors, a pattern of harassment complaints that had been settled out of court, and most interestingly, a small claims case where she'd been ordered to pay damages for malicious interference with peaceful enjoyment of property. But the real gem came from the HOA's own records. Linda's visitor registration requirement didn't exist. Not in the bylaws, not in the amendments, not even in the meeting minutes. She'd simply made it up. I sat in my study, surrounded by legal documents, and felt that familiar tingle of anticipation. It's the same feeling I get when I'm about to rule on a case where justice is just served with a side of poetic irony. Linda's masterstroke came on Friday evening. Emma had walked to the corner store to buy ice cream, a crime against humanity. Apparently, when 3 police cars pulled up to our house, I opened the door to find Officer Rodriguez looking deeply uncomfortable. Judge Patterson, I'm really sorry about this, but we received a call about a potential break-in. The caller said there was a suspicious person casing your house. Through my front window, I could see Linda standing in her driveway, arms crossed, wearing the expression of someone who just won the lottery. Officer Rodriguez, I said calmly, the suspicious person is my daughter Emma. She's visiting from college. The color drained from Rodriguez's face. Sir, we had no idea. The caller seemed very certain there was criminal activity. I'm sure she did. I looked directly at Linda, who was now trying to disappear into her own landscaping like a guilty flamingo. Don't worry, officer. I know exactly who called this in. That's when I decided Linda Martinez needed to learn what happens when you mess with a judge's family. The beauty of dealing with bullies is that they always overreach. Linda couldn't help herself. When she saw Emma's car still in my driveway the next morning, she called the police again, and again, and again. By noon, she'd made 4 separate calls reporting Emma for loitering, trespassing, disturbing the peace, and my personal favorite, suspicious ice cream consumption. That's when I made a phone call of my own. Chief Williams. This is Judge Patterson. I need to report a case of harassment and false police reports. The perpetrator is my neighbor, Linda Martinez, and she's been systematically targeting my daughter. The chief's response was exactly what I'd expected. We'll handle this immediately, Your Honor. Linda's lawyer had tried everything, claiming she was just following HOA rules that didn't exist, arguing she was concerned about neighborhood security by harassing a college student, even suggesting she was protecting property values by calling the police on a girl eating ice cream. But the evidence was overwhelming. 8 false police reports, 37 photographs of Emma taken without consent, a completely fabricated visitor registration policy, and a pattern of harassment that stretched back years. Mrs. Martinez, I continued from the bench, you've wasted police resources, harassed an innocent young woman, and made the grave error of targeting a judge's family. The court finds you guilty of filing false police reports and harassment. Linda's sobs echoed through the courtroom like a symphony of regret. Her lawyer whispered something about appeals, but we all knew it was over. Your sentence is 200 hours of community service, a $5,000 fine, and mandatory anger management counseling. I paused, savoring the moment. Oh, and Mrs. Martinez, you're also banned from any HOA enforcement activities for the next 5 years. As the bailiff led Linda away, I noticed Emma in the gallery, grinning like she'd just won the lottery. She gave me a thumbs up, and I had to fight to maintain my judicial composure. Outside the courthouse, Emma linked her arm through mine. So, Dad, think she tried to regulate my next visit? I chuckled, pulling her close. Honey, where she's going, the only thing she'd be regulating is her own visitation schedule. Sometimes the best revenge, in getting even, sometimes it's just reminding bullies that they don't know who they're messing with.